Story 1. I really hope the worst of it is plagued by poor music, uninteresting clothing choices, and an increase in people caring about skiing or some other niche hobby. Story 2. I don't know, but I'm certain that beginning in 2033, all of the kids born at the start of the pandemic will turn 13, therefore becoming the quarantines. Story 3. Well, as someone who is finishing their 5th decade on this planet, here are some predictions. Technology will continue to change rapidly. In my lifetime, computers had 4 kilobytes of memory and a 1 megabyte hard drive was the size of a shoebox. Modern cell phones didn't appear until 2008. Additionally, in the past decade, we have radically transformed the power grid and developed modern electric vehicles. So, expect more significant changes. Medicine will continue to improve at a rapid pace. It seems we have a new treatment or cure announced every day. I remember when human immunodeficiency virus was first discovered and considered a death sentence. Now it is 100% preventable with a shot every 3 months. So yes, it is going to be exciting. We will start seeing substantial and accelerating population decline in many countries in Europe and Asia. This is a new phenomenon for humanity, apart from times of war, famine, or plague, so it will have unforeseen economic and social impacts. There will be a reduction in globalization due to changes in the world order and the preceding population decline. China will face decline due to its population trends, and many supply chains will undergo transformations. I have no idea how this will unfold, but I believe that the COVID-19 pandemic made many people cautious and has led to a global push toward shorter, more localized supply chains. How this will interact with negative demographic trends remains unclear. More advancements in space exploration are on the horizon. With the costs decreasing, many new space initiatives will arise. I cannot predict the specifics, but lower costs will allow for more players to enter the field. The outcome of the Ukraine conflict will likely result in a very different Russia. If the country remains recognizable at all, the extent of the economic, social, and demographic damage done is still hard to assess. Even if the conflict ends tomorrow, overall, Russia will likely become a much weaker nation. Given the beginning of a permanent reduction in oil usage, as observed from China due to widespread electrification, by the time sanctions are lifted, oil may not hold the same value. Story 4. Be me. In the 2030s, living the dream. Log into the Brain Chip. The Brain Chip is sponsored by Taco Bell, and I receive a Doritos Locos Tacos advertisement on startup. I try to ignore the ad, but the Taco Bell jingle plays every time I think about food. Cannabis is finally legal everywhere. Every street corner has a Starbucks on one side and a cannabis dispensary on the other. Electric vehicles are everywhere. All cars look like oversized computer mice. I try to charge my car, but I have to watch a 30-second unskippable ad first. Charging stations all have advertisements for other charging stations. Artificial intelligence assistants are everywhere. The AI starts reminding me of my appointments with passive-aggressive comments. Don't forget your meeting at 2 p.m. Not that you ever listen to me. Advertisements follow me everywhere. I open the fridge and get an ad for Coca-Cola. I open the oven and get an ad for DiGiorno pizza. I open the closet and get an ad for Tide Pods. Cancel culture is in full swing. I accidentally say, Happy Holidays, instead of Merry Christmas. I'm trending on Twitter under #HolidayHater. I apologize in a tearful YouTube video, but I still get canceled. Cannabis helps calm me down. I watch reruns of classic shows. There is a new reboot of Friends with an AI-generated script. Ross and Rachel have a subplot about subscribing to Amazon Prime. Elon Musk announces a new brain chip update. Now you can pay $8 a month to remove ads from your thoughts. I realize I can't afford it because all my money goes to charging my car and buying cannabis. I contemplate life. The brain chip plays a motivational ad about self-improvement courses. Story 5. Same situation, different decade. As usual, the future will make the past appear pleasant. We'll all pretend the 2020s were great and criticize the 1930s and all their once-in-a-lifetime events that we believe signal the end of the world. Same situation, different decade. Rinse and repeat. Story 6. I believe it will be challenging for most people. I would be very surprised if we avoid global conflict throughout the 2030s. Story 7. It's a bold opinion, but I believe the divisiveness will eventually decrease. However, the significant challenge we will face is the poor environmental conditions. Story 8. The 2030s may bring tighter integration between humans and machines, potentially leading to widespread use of augmentation. Story 9. Steady, gradual progress toward a better world involves mistakes, small setbacks, and significant advancements. There is loss and pain, but also growth and joy. Throughout time, people often pretend it is the end of humanity. However, life continues. The next generation is not doomed. They are simply different. Do not lose hope. Life is short, so explore what brings you happiness. Story 10. I pray for peace of mind. With artificial intelligence developing as it is, the future may be concerning. You would think that by now, someone must be building a robot army. Story 11. Hotter than you ever imagined. The road to Maine will be like the highway to California during the Great Depression. If you do not have the money, boys. Story 12. The decline of shopping malls is occurring at a rapid pace. However, I truly don't foresee any physical stores surviving during this transition. Story 13. Corporate feudalism? Imagine South Korea, but even worse. I hope not, yet I also hope to break into the job market there to survive if it does happen. Survival is a powerful motivator, and unfortunately, people can be easily cowed into compliance. Many claim they will reject it, but fewer will actually follow through. Story 14. Politically unstable and chaotic weather create a sense of general chaos. I want to be more optimistic, but it is difficult. I hope I and most everyone else here am wrong. Story 15. I hope it is a bit more relaxing than the 2020s have been. However, I know it will not be unless significant changes happen. Story 16. If it continues at this rate, ASS will be a top feature film, Carl's Jr. will take custody of your children, and people will be watering their gardens with Gatorade. Story 17. I believe that by the middle of the decade, the term climate refugee will become commonplace and will be the fastest growing concern in geopolitics as more of the Earth's surface becomes inhospitable. It will begin to eclipse traditional immigrant and refugee crises worldwide. Story 18. Hotter, larger storms, longer droughts, and massive fires will create shortages of food staples and clean water. The wealthy will control everything while the middle class will nearly vanish. Poverty and famine will become widespread, even in developed nations. Violence and crime will rise, making healthcare difficult to access. Oceans will face serious challenges, prompting coastal residents to relocate due to rising tides, stronger storms, and diminishing fish stocks. The hottest regions will experience a mass exodus as they become uninhabitable. Developed nations will witness lower birth rates but increased immigration from migrants and refugees. Racial tensions and identity politics will push many countries far to the right, potentially leading to conflict over resources and ethnic cleansing. Story 19. Climate change-induced migration and conflict will be significant. Many areas will become uninsurable, leading to substantial financial losses when homes and businesses are destroyed. Food and water security issues will exacerbate conflicts. Story 20. Why does this prompt feel artificial intelligence written? I think it's because they spelled out 2030s instead of writing it. Story 21. Perhaps this is a bold statement, but I feel like every decade since the year 2000 has merged together. Jokes about COVID aside, culture in 2020 feels quite similar to 2010 and even the early 2000s. I don't know if it's the internet connecting us so much and providing us with so much information, but when I think of the stereotypes from other decades like the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, I see a clear distinction. I truly wonder if, when we start glamorizing the 2000s to 2020s, it will all just be one big blend of the same thing with only memes and slang to differentiate it. Story 22. Fat and slow, but the internet will be lightning speed everywhere, including even the untouched parts of the jungles. Story 23. In the United States, the outcome will depend on the election and its aftermath. If Project 2025 is implemented, the United States as we know it will come to an end. Story 24. The situation is dismal with social regression across the spectrum. Society is more divided than ever, and there are no viable solutions in sight for any issues in the civil and geopolitical landscape. The cost of living will become unmanageable due to a negative feedback loop of interest rate hikes and inflation. Relief funds are being allocated to inappropriate areas, and changing leadership within departments will not instigate any meaningful change. Crime rates will reach levels not seen in decades, exacerbated by lower funding and strikes within law enforcement, resulting in fewer police officers. The wage gap between the wealthy and the poor will be wider than ever. It sounds bleak, but it can still get worse from here. Story 25. There is a Buddhist monastery for foreigners in Thailand, located in a remote area. I remember a British monk saying that the only news about the West they received in the late 1970s was when Elvis died. Aside from that, they knew little beyond a 10-kilometer radius. My point is that the 2030s are not going to be a single experience. They will largely reflect your perceptions based on the information you allow in. Some people think that politics are chaotic now or that we are living in a tumultuous timeline. However, if you never looked at a screen and did not discuss politics with others, how would you feel about the world? Both versions of reality are valid. What is happening on the screen is not the real world, and what occurs in your living room is also part of history. Story 26. Computers will be faster but not more useful. Touchscreen phones will give way to something slightly less problematic but not significantly more efficient. Highways will become wider, but traffic will slow down. Story 27. Deepfakes and artificial intelligence will either be tamed and regulated, or they will sow the seeds of chaos and upheaval. It is also possible that the excitement may diminish on social media, leading to fewer people being constantly consumed by their feeds. Story 28. Ignorant older individuals and naive younger individuals will dominate communication channels that have yet to emerge. Someone will monetize it, become extremely wealthy, and ostracize an entire generation once again. Hopefully, we can stop funding atrocities, but that has not happened yet, so I will not be holding my breath. Story 29. Hopefully, we don't harm ourselves by accident or greed before then. I'm hoping artificial intelligence will take over the government so we can get some roads actually fixed. Story 30. Birth rates will decline significantly worldwide. Mental health issues, autism, and sexually transmitted disease rates are rising. There will be a further decrease in insect populations, leading to additional collapses in biodiversity. The consumer economy will experience a downturn for a few years as we work to replace plastics and polyfluoroalkyl substances embedded in products. Artificial intelligence and virtual reality will both experience another bubble. The internet will be distinctly different from what we see today, with more closed-walled gardens. Cell phones will still be present, but we will increasingly use eyeglasses as screens. There will be rising terrorism from the Middle East as their economies collapse due to reduced oil and gas sales. We are still waiting on fusion energy and the space elevator. Story 31. I believe Donald Trump will win the next election, and he or whoever he appoints as his replacement will remain in power in the 2030s. Anyone who is not straight and white may be subjected to extreme measures, and women's rights could deteriorate significantly. America in the 2030s may resemble Germany in the 1930s, and it seems unlikely that anyone will come to our rescue. Story 32. As a German, I'm afraid the country will become increasingly backward. In the 2020s in Germany, a right-wing nationalist worker party is gaining traction. They employ a divisive narrative, focusing on us versus them. While other parties struggle from election to election, this party emphasizes long-term strategies. The government faces challenges in forming coalitions, and no one currently wishes to work with the right-wing faction, although this may not be a permanent situation. A charismatic speaker is positioned at the forefront of the party. Although not the official leader, he becomes the symbol of the movement. His influence grows gradually, then overtakes the leadership suddenly. This speaker is arrested, tried, and convicted. His extremist views are documented by the court and his own statements. The right-wing party begins to influence children and teenagers before they can vote, presenting themselves as a young party that cares about these youths and their country. They offer a vision for the future that other parties fail to provide, creating a sense of community for young people as mainstream society increasingly marginalizes their spaces. The party gains momentum despite its leader engaging in criminal activities, and language within the political sphere becomes increasingly violent. Violence between political factions becomes normalized, with political figures facing attacks. In the 1930s, the right-wing party reemerges with strong support as new elections cast them as an alternative. The young people they influenced years earlier are beginning to vote. Some political parties believe they can manage the actions of the party leader and the right-wing faction, keeping them in check. Other political groups are marginalized as the leader consolidates more governmental power. The education system shifts to align with right-wing ideologies, with educators replaced according to their political beliefs. Those targeted by the party face increasing discrimination, often violently. Discrimination laws are disregarded. More minority groups experience systematic discrimination. Women's rights diminish, and new societal roles are imposed on them. Children are raised in this environment from birth, and it is crucial to remember that people tend to vote based on their experiences and knowledge. Germany's constitution has become weakened and hollowed from within. You decide what happens next. Story 33. One can only hope that history does not repeat itself. I'm increasingly feeling that something is changing. I do not consume a lot of news, but I keep myself roughly informed about what is happening in the world. I do not scroll through a news feed every 10 minutes. Nevertheless, I see how many relevant jobs, which are important for keeping everything running, are losing status and collapsing. The school system is also struggling, as the prevailing teaching methods date back to the imperial era. A lot of things need to change. Whether, how, and when remains to be seen. I sincerely hope that common sense prevails before madness for most people. Story 34. Please, I hope people stop treating transgender individuals the way they do now. I am not less of a human than cisgender individuals. Story 35. Australian Generation X here. Depending on how much sea levels rise and if we experience more rare flooding events, we may face mass migration from Southeast Asia, potentially leading to conflict as well as shortages of drinking water and other resources. If it does not happen in the 2030s or in our lifetime, it is almost certain to occur in our children's lifetime. Story 36. Breaking records for the hottest day ever recorded. There is a looming threat of war, if it isn't already present in your country. The downfall of humanity is on its way. How close? Hard to say. The 2030s do not look promising. I believe people should reconsider having children. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.